Welcome back. Hope you're having a great afternoon today. It is Monday, June 19th, 2023. Guess we could call it Rey Mysterio Day if March 16th is Steve Austin Day. Of course, if you're a wrestling fan, you will get that reference. We do have a few birthdays and a few events. So we're going to start off with probably the biggest event, 1949 at Charlotte Speedway, the dirt track in Charlotte. Jim Roper wins the first what would become Cup Series race. It was called Strictly Stock back then. Then in the second year, they changed the name to Grand National. 1971, it became Winston Cup Grand National Series. 1986, they dropped the Grand National, it just became Winston Cup Series. Then, of course, 2004, it was Nextel Cup, then Sprint, then Monster, and then the amalgamation of names that it is now. But 1949, Jim Roper won, but he was not flagged the winner. Glenn Dunaway was originally flagged the winner, but was found to have done some modifications, I want to say, to the suspension of his car. Only at this time safety modifications were allowed, but as the years went on, performance modification, aftermarket parts, and now NASCAR Cup Series is, they're crate motors away, or they're crate motors away from being a spec series, essentially, because everything is basically you have to buy it for NASCAR, the single supply parts and all that kind of thing. 1960, Joe Lee Johnson wins the inaugural World 600 at Charlotte. I really can't remember why the race was pushed back this far into June when it became a Memorial Day weekend tradition. I don't know if it was because the track they were having, I know there was all sorts of issues with the track over the years, including turn 3 and 4 were built where there was once a landfill, so they were having trouble keeping the ground solid underneath the banking, and that may have been part of it, but I know that had issues over the years. 1988, Jeff Bodine wins at Pocono, but more importantly and more sadly, it was Bobby Allison's last ever Cup Series start. Of course, if you know the story, you know the story. If you don't, here it is. Lap 1, as the field takes a green flag, Bobby Allison radios to his crew that he has a tire going down, and he's going to come in. And going over the tunnel turn, Bobby lost control, and his car slid across the track and was hit squarely in the driver's door by Giacomo Giacomo. Bobby had multiple injuries, was not expected to even survive the night, but he did make a recovery. Over the next couple years, he did come back as an owner. He never did win as an owner, but he had a moderately successful team, had several top 10s, several top 5s, a few times top 15 in points, just never could crack the winner's circle. But Bobby, as we did talk about a few days ago, did make his return to Fastmasters 25 years ago in 1993. Actually 30 years ago, I'm sorry, and we're getting out of focus there, but it doesn't really matter because we're not showing anything yet. And our final event, also at Pocono in 2000, Jeremy Mayfield wins the race, but bumps Dale Earnhardt on the last lap to do it. Of course, Dale Earnhardt bumps him back on the cool-off lap. Then in victory lane, Jeremy's like, I didn't mean to try to wreck him. I just wanted to rattle his cage using Earnhardt's phrase from the year before at Bristol. So anyway, off to our birthdays. Born on this day in 1977, former Cup and Xfinity Series regular. He is the 2003 Busch Series Rookie of the Year. Kind of had a rough career, basically. No wins in the National Series. Mr. David Stremme. Of course, this is when he was driving for Fitch Bradshaw in the Busch Series. He did drive for James Finch and Turner Motorsports and a couple other teams. He moved up with Ganassi and ended up driving the Coors Light car, replacing Sterling Marlin. At best he did in Cup was an 8th at Talladega, and he had a 9th, I think, at another track, I can't remember. But it just didn't click for him in the Cup Series. He moved over to Penske. He was in the Penske car for a bit, and again, just, it didn't click. I don't know what happened. I don't know why it didn't click. He went to Swan Motorsports. Of course, that was a start and park team. There you see a couple of the paint schemes that he drove as a rookie in the Cup Series. Whoops. There's the 12 car, which had Verizon branding, but because of Sprint, they weren't allowed to advertise. And there's the Coors Light car that he drove for a bit. I think David would have been better served to have just stayed in the Busch Series with the top team. And, sometimes it's better to be a big fish in a small pond. But, everybody wants to be in the Cup Series, and he struggled. Our next driver was born in 1938 on this date, but did pass away in 2021. And I did get a TTM from him about a month or so before his passing, so, it's kind of nice that I was able to get out to him. But he's got 4 Cup Series wins in his career. Mr. Charlie Glotzbach. Of course, Charlie made his return to NASCAR in the very early 90s, driving for Junie Donlavey. And then he was called to sub for Sterling Marlin in 91, Black and Red Max 92 here, when Sterling was injured. Of course, there you see, it says it's credited to Sterling Marlin. Didn't have good runs, but, Charlie had been out of the car for a number of years. Did run a few races in 92, 93. Did run some ARCA starts during this time, had some success there. That he was known for his speedway prowess. And I believe he still holds the track record for fastest average speed in a caution-free race at Bristol, folks. Caution-free, how'd that happen? And our final birthday is not from the circle tracks, but from the straight liners, born on this date in 1940. Cha-Cha herself, Miss Shirley Muldowney. She was the first 3-time NHRA Top Fuel champion. Yep, right there is a 3-time champion. Of course, this was back in 91, so her win total has gotten pushed down. She's still got the same amount of wins, but has moved down the list just because of other drivers achieving more wins over that time frame. So a couple of Hall of Famers there with Glotzbach. I mean, he's not in the NASCAR Hall of Fame, but I'm sure he's in some regional Hall of Fames. Of course, Shirley Muldowney, big name there. David Stremme. Wish he could have had a little more success in NASCAR, but that's how it goes. So anyway, appreciate you watching. Enjoy the rest of your Monday, and we will see you tomorrow. Thanks for watching.